Hello and welcome to another gas station food cyclist NorCalCyclingVideos production. This is your 2018 Dash for Cash Criterium, the men's Pro 1-2 field. For Turun Elite, we had Justin Thompson, Blaze Hamill, Matt McColl, Jeff Linder, David Grunman, Chris Kane, and myself. A few non-elite riders. Andrew Hasselman really doing quite an impressive job. He just came down from Washington to join the non-elite team after getting his Cat 2 Racing Collegiate. Very impressive ride today. So this is the Dash for Cash Crit. A lot of preems being called during this race. Cash preems at a certain point. They called preem every lap for a while. So what that meant was there was a lot of attacking, very surgy. Breakaways weren't too stable for the most part, or a large part of the race. So they would call a preem, and then the breakaway would attack itself for the preem, and then try to maintain momentum. So it was kind of hard. See Jeff starting out at the back. You already have a couple of riders off the front. Right in front of him is Robert Skinner with the too long of socks and no team affiliation. And then who is that for A-Main right in front of Jeff right now? Altavella rider just to his left. Rearward facing camera right now. It's up in the upper left-hand corner because this crit was mostly right-hand turns, so wanting to give you that inside line. 2 out of 40 laps. Alright, so yeah, you can just see Jeff kind of sitting in right now. Trying to be a little more conservative this time is what he told me. He told me he watched the Folsom race footage and saw himself a little too much at the front of affairs, wanting to conserve a little bit more. He just posted a really great video on this account for a sprinting tutorial from a local group ride in the South Bay. We're just riding up on the inside of that gutter pretty close. I don't know why we were taking it so close to the gutter on that side. I mean, this was like a 3-lane road wide open to us. And as you can see, the field just kind of spreads all the way across it at this point. Jeff kind of giving a little power to follow this attack. Who is that in the white? I cannot tell. There he goes. He's got a bit of a gap. He's just holding on to that wheel. Once again, lots of preems in this race. That's what's pretty unique about this race. So that's Bobby Terra. I think that's Ryan Oakes for A-Main, Robert Skinner up front. Robert Skinner was someone that we kind of wanted to watch for the most part. I'm sorry, that's not Bobby Terra. That is the other A-Main rider, or Oak Valley rider. So they're calling a preem on this one. Looks like H24 rider, followed by a Zwift rider, followed by Dave Grunman. This was a race that it helped having a lot of riders because there were a lot of attacks for preems. You never knew what was really a preem attack and what was just a race attack. So, trying to establish a break. So having more riders in the field really helps. Making sure that you don't miss out on anything. And luckily, we had quite a few riders with quite a few matches to burn. That was really helpful. John Franz, the Davis Cycling Club, being followed up by Andrew Hasselman, fresh Cat 2, joining us in Northern California. Christopher Kane, Turun Elite, or Chris Kane, just following. Chris goes by Chris. I don't go by Chris. That's how we're different. I also don't have salty, peppery, gray hair like he does. But anyways, Chris Kane, he's got a Mike's Bikes rider, non-elite team, right on his wheel. Chris is gonna kind of just skirt around going into this right-hand turn into the finish long distance from this turn into the finish on this course. It's not a short turn into the sprint. It's a headwind into the sprint, or a headwind and then into the turn, and then a crosswind into the sprint. Jeff just being followed by Josh Rovner of A-Main Cycling with another A-Main rider right behind him. Josh, what's up? Love your dog. Margot's a great dog. Yeah, Jeff just following Andrew Hasselman right here. Andrew Hasselman really up at the pointy end of affairs on this race, more so than I expected. I haven't actually this was the first time I have actually gotten to race in a sanctioned race with Andrew. Very impressed with his riding in this race. Really excited to see. He had a little bit of a difficult time, I know, at the Mount Hamilton stage race. I think a lot of people had difficult times at that race. Good to see him getting back at it. So here's another attack. Don't remember if a bell was rung for this lap or not. You just see riders, Jeff wants to follow this, maybe. Is he gonna? Well, so A-Main's gonna launch. A-Main realizes that gap. A-Main had quite a few riders, and with A-Main goes another rider. Can't tell if we have a Troon up there. A-Main is just, they have a guy going across. They're going to sit at the front. I think we have a guy up there too. That's why we're just kind of sitting across. You can see Oak Valley hopping right now. Dive bombing into this corner. Woo, getting a little hot on the inside. That rider for Mike's Bikes who's on the hoods. People surging right now. Pete's coffee rider. So this crit is pretty fast action. It's just attack after attack, and like I said, it's because the promoter puts on a cash preem just about every lap, if not every other lap. Anyways, I think I was talking about Jeff's sprinting tutorial video. You should go check it out. It's really good. Of course, it's got power and speed overlays. It's super impressive in that regard, but it's also a good watch. Who is that Lux rider? Gianni Lampretti of Lux Cycling. Very strong junior rider. Still had a junior gear ratio on his bike. Very impressed by him, as you can see on the back of Jeff's wheel right now. And just a little group going up the road. Looks like that would be Jeff just hopping on my rear wheel at this point. Little surge going, and I follow. I see that riders are just kind of sitting up. I mean, this was fast and furious from the get going. Just following in to that line. Ooh, Jeff coming in hot into that corner. Probably seems a lot more scary on camera than it is IRL. But all right, there I go. I'm trying to bridge across. Jeff's just going to sit up and he's going to let me go. Josh Robner's going to chase me down from A-Main. Andrew Hasselman coming right up behind Jeff. We're just going to sit up front. It looks like Robert Lander is also right behind us. So essentially what just happened was I attacked, A-Main followed me, and then A-Main and my teammates got to the front and kind of blocked things. So another rider is going to come across, and then it looks like two Troon riders along with an H2 rider, and then this is just going to bring the whole field. I mean, once it gets that stacked, people are going to want to bridge across. Still, this is six laps into this race, and people are already fighting and stringing out. Big gaps going, riders sitting up, just getting absorbed back in. Probably see me getting absorbed pretty quickly. Jeff just saying, "Don't chase I'm not chasing my teammate down." That's that's funny. I'm glad the camera caught that. So yeah, Emmett from the non-turn or just the regular Squadra team right there, following Andrew Hasselman's wheel. So this gap has been established. This looks like a little bit of a split. Looks like the initial attack with H24, me, a couple other riders. Caught once again, you hear that lap preem going. So this is a pretty big split in the field now, as you see us rounding the corner. This is where, once it gets this big, people look at each other, and then that's when someone, just like Chris Coble does right now, hops back on and kind of just brings the whole field with them. Or the whole field is, coming back on as people are sitting. So, coming into this corner, looks like we're riding the gutter unnecessarily. Pretty smooth course, not very technical. 4 leftish turns. A lot of wind going into this section of the course. John Franz right behind Jeff, right here. This is kind of going into a headwind right here. You can see our speed just being at 39 miles an hour and it dropping down because everyone's getting the full mass effect of the headwind. Going into this turn, looks like an attack into this turn. Once again, this is also a preem lap. Jeff just taking the hot route onto the Olympic Cubs wheel. Following that, every time you hit this corner, you had to sprint out of it. It was kind of crazy in that regard. Me just coming back like a drop of lead into a bucket of water. And 2 riders getting gapped off the front. Don't know who that is. Can't really tell. Mike's bikes right there with Pete cycling just right on Jeff's wheel. Jeff really at the front of the race pretty early. But once again, worried about brakes getting established because with those preems, you don't know if a brake is actually going to stick it and have motivation to stick it for all the preems in the eventual win, or if they are just going to fight each other over every single preem. But if there is a turn rider up the road, which I'm not quite sure, Jeff is in a perfect position, just kind of blocking. But once again, one of our other teammates could be blocking a little bit better. So not necessarily Jeff's fault for being in a position he shouldn't be in. It's more or less his teammates' faults for not really. So Jeff is going to follow John Franz. John Franz is he's got a pretty good record this year. That's too much of a liability to let just go. And Franz knows that Jeff's not just going to let him go. So he sits up. Olympic Club rider there, followed by Blake Anton of H24 Cycling. Blake's a super great guy, goes back to collegiate cycling. Solid dude, smart bike racer. So Jeff's just going to let this gap go. It looked like there was a Turin rider up in that, making the right-hand turn. Shout out to everyone that commented on the race video from Folsom to me at this race or online. If you appreciated that video, that means a lot to me. If you hated it, you can unfollow. Just kidding. Stick around for more. Maybe you'll like these. I'm always trying to improve them. Let me know what you want to hear. Trying to stay a little more focused on the race and the tactics, especially a race like this, because it's so tactical. We got a baby, oh man, so shout-out names today. What's it? Justin Poulsen. We got a baby Justin Poulsen. Justin Poulsen, remember seeing that kid riding fixies when he was like 13 years old back in 2014. Or 2012, Jesus. He's grown up to be quite an athlete. He's had some big wins today. Kind of a dark horse in this race. He didn't have a lot of teammates. Showed up. He's usually based out of SoCal part of the year. Worried about him slipping away and maybe getting a win. Stealing it right from under our noses. Totally capable of it. Dave Grunman just sitting up as Justin launches across. Looks like that's A-Main Cycling right in front of Dave Grunman. So Dave Grunman was up in front. That's why Jeff was blocking so hard there for a hot minute. Dave Grunman just taking a drink from his bottle. Dave Grunman always racing with 2 bottles just in case he loses one. Dave Grunman, a seasoned veteran. A lot of information in that guy. Even though he is a bit of a Luddite, fears the internet. And has no social media accounts. No Strava. Sometimes I don't even think he rides with a bike computer. So things just kind of sitting up right now. I don't know, is there really a group off the road? Blaze Hamill just kind of swinging off for Troon Elite. We've got Emmett being followed. Or Emmett following. Who was that just attacked? Well, Jeff's just sitting in now. He's surrounded by teammates. He's surrounded by Dave. He's surrounded by Blaze. He's surrounded by Andrew. Within earshot if anything happens and we need to go chase up the road or something like that. Shout out to Naveen Mallory of the Olympic Club, a former teammate of mine. Great to see you. Great to. Unfortunately, our race was delayed a little bit because of a crash in the Masters field, and was able to chat with some buds I don't usually get to chat with. A lot of guys actually showed up to this crit that much bigger registration numbers this year than last year. Made for a completely different event. Last year it was a breakaway. Was won by David Grunman with Matt McCall and then me rounding out the podium. I was on a different team at that time, and it was a breakaway. This race had a lot of attacks and breaks go, but don't want to ruin it. Oh, Jeff's just getting bounced around a little bit right there. Jeff Bishek of Davis Cycling Club. On that beautiful lap PR bike. So, yeah, a little bit different this year because of the registration numbers. It kind of made things a lot different. There was a much bigger team presence from some teams, such as Squadra, but also H24 being there and also Valley Cycling being there kind of changed things up. Olympic Club having strong contenders in Chris Coble and quite a few guys that usually race the Masters field who we know are strong. We'd love to have them racing with us more often in the P1-2 field. Josh Robner, A-Main Cycling, just sitting behind Jeff. Oak Valley, also Jeff just situated right behind Andrew Hasselman. So yeah, just coming out of that awful headwind into the final. Jeff just sitting in a little bit more. So we're 11 laps in now. This is about the 18-minute mark. Hot, fast, and furious first 18 minutes. Matt McCall right next to him. You know, if there's smoke, there's fire. If there's smoke, there's fire. If there's a Matt McCall, there's a Jeff Linder. Really, the Bash Bros keep a good eye out for each other. Fergus Tanaka on the left for A-Main Cycling coming through. We got Greg McCulloch just behind Jeff Linder for Specialized Muscle Milk. Shout out to Greg. Greg, your dog is super awesome. Say what's up to Bailey for me. And I can't tell who Oh, that's Simon Tuttle. Simon Tuttle was saying, hey, man, you call me Gooby Duck the entire video at Folsom. And I was like, I don't know, man. It's just so much quicker to say Gooby Duck than Simon Tuttle. I don't really think it is. I just love the fact that you started a program and named it Gooby Duck. So Gooby Duck, Simon Tuttle, right behind Jeff Linder at this point. If you were wondering who Gooby Duck was from Folsom Crit, Jeff just sitting right on Matt McColl's wheel, Ferg right behind him. Don't know who that rider is on the beautiful Neo Pride bike right behind Jeff, but got Oak Valley. Who were the Oak Valley riders from? So we had Josh from Carling. We had, who else was from Oak Valley? If I'm not missing something. We had Matt Tufts. Also, and of course, Bobby Terra from Oak Valley Cycling Club. We had one, what's it called? Dolce Vita rider that Jeff's just kind of behind. Jeff just doing a really good job sitting in, staying out of the wind. This was a very windy course. It was also a 75-minute crit, not a 60-minute crit, so I think at that point you have to be a little more conservative with how much you're in the wind and how much you're attacking if you want to be able to save it for the final, being up there in the final 5 to 6 laps, and then sprinting, of course, in the last lap. Great action shot of my man, John Franz, sorry, of Davis Bicycle Club, right behind Jeff. So yeah, I mean, I like at this point that I'm not really having a good view of what's going on up the road from Jeff in his front-facing camera, because that means he's protecting himself. He's staying mid-pack. You know, you still, in a course like this, it's a course you can get away with tail gunning on, but you're still it's gonna suck a little bit out of you to tail gun, but being at the front of affairs is also kind of bad. So Jeff just kind of sitting nestled in right behind Matt McColl's wheel. Very good. Justin Thompson might actually be up the road at this point. I think that is kind of where we were at. Justin Thompson for Turin Elite Cycling. Justin Thompson, congratulations on your new Sprinter van. It's beautiful. We should go van camping for Dunnigan Hills or something like that. Welcome to the beautiful vans of Northern California, Nevada Cycling Association. Glad to have you. Also, congrats on almost finishing your residency at Stanford. So it looks like a few riders are just coming back. Here we got Emmett, got a Team Zwift rider. I don't know if that's Creighton or if that's one of the Lampretti brothers. But Jeff just sitting right now, coming up a little bit. Having to do a little bit of power. Just following this Altavella rider's wheel through that corner. And going into this finishing sprint. Don't know if they're calling the bell right now. 15 laps into the race. 15 out of 40. Andrew Hasselman right there. Jeff's just coming up on him. And Blake Anton just dropping back like a ton of bricks. Jeff having to skirt around him as he comes on the inside of the gutter. So, looks like things are pretty much reabsorbed. That might be an attack going right now on the right side. A few riders popping up. Don't know if we had any representation up in it. I don't know who that Olympic Club rider is on the Black Canyon disc bike. But that looks like Jeff Bouchek just dropping back right there for Davis Cycling Club, along with one of the Lampretti brothers for Lux Cycling, a great development team. That looks like Blaze Hamill for Turin Elite just dropping back right there. Andrew Hasselman, sit and wheel, keeping Jeff protected and out of the wind right now. And just following moves, but not really attacking or anything. Knowing that Jeff's right on his wheel. It gets a little surgy, so he's going to pop out of the saddle. But then looks like we have some A-main riders sitting up at the front, so maybe just willing to let that lap go. Riders trying to come out on that left side, going in to this right-hand turn. A-main cycling, cutting that corner in. Andrew doing a good job holding his line. Doesn't really have a whole lot of Northern California and Nevada. Oh, Andrew just following that move. That's a great attack by him, following, obviously recognizing that there isn't a Turin rider up the road, so he needs to be a part of it, whether or not he strings the field up there. Looks like that is David Grumman for Turin Elite, just dropping back right in front of the Mike's rider. Oh, that's Justin Thompson. I'm sorry. So Justin Thompson was up the road for quite an extended amount of time at that point. And now Jeff is just going to let this Mike's rider bridge this gap, even though he could very quickly, because he's gonna conserve his matches. And very quickly they just get back on. So Justin actually doing a terrific job being up at the front for so long, but not dropping all the way back. Me just coming up on the inside, hotly followed by Gavin Murray of H24 and a Team Zwift rider. Sorry, Team Zwift. All your riders are young and they look alike. I have a hard time telling you apart. It's not to say you're not all great kids. So yes, we have Luke Lampretti, who I believe was the winner of Cadshill this year. Very impressive win on his part. Another lap bell being called. Luke's brother for Lux Cycling, just right there. Got Naveen Mallory, Robert Skinner. Things getting strung out a little bit. Josh Robner for A-Main, just sitting on Jeff's wheel. So this was not really a break at this point. This is just the field getting extremely strung out pretty early for a preem. Once again, preems being very hotly contested in this race. To the point where you go through the line, the bell gets rung, and then people start stringing it out immediately. Actually fairly lucky. This course can be pretty hot this time of year, and it was pretty brisk, but with that briskness came a little bit of heat. Chris Coble right up on the inside as we come onto this major back headwind section. So yeah, with the cool weather came pretty good headwind right through here. It actually kind of affected things because people would attack right after the line in regards to preems and stuff like that. And that's a tailwind section, crosswind going into a tailwind, and then people would get a bunch of momentum and get a gap, and then they would come around, make another left turn, get a little more crosswindy, and then eventually a headwind. Then your motivation gets sucked out of you, and then you get caught going into the crosswind finish. Crosswind, headwind kind of finish. going very hot into that corner. This is the point in the course where you have a tailwind. 31 miles an hour through here. Justin Poulsen right in front of Jeff Linder. He was also being very conservative in this race. Justin just trying to save his matches. Good kid, trains very hard. I believe he's pretty YouTube famous, and has some good work out there with his coach. Maybe Jeff will link it below, but yeah, if you know Justin at all, he's a young kid that has a lot of talent. It's really good every time he wins, and he accomplishes everything based off of hard work, and really enjoyed seeing that kid grow over the past couple of years. So shout out to Justin, always rooting for you. The field's kind of clumping up now, going into a pre-lap finish. Whereas it was strung out very early, and that clumping up occurs because of the headwind. That's just how that headwind is, right, going into that corner, where it will be all strung out, and then people will hit that headwind and they'll look at each other and they'll be like, I don't want to be at the front of affairs right now. So they kind of just sit up, and that's why it clumps up, and then they turn, and then they see the finish, and then they start sprinting. It's kind of how it felt from my vantage point for quite a while. The only prelim I went for was from a little gap and a little different situation, and I got beat by the Lampretti brothers, the Lux rider, with Junior Gehring, because I can't sprint and because that kid's strong. So, people who ever underestimate a junior rider based off of their gearing, like, man, these kids are they're hungry. They're hungry for victory. Don't assume that you're going to beat them based off of the fact that they have to ride a 14 in the back, man. They will find a way. I'm not saying that I was thinking that way. I'm saying that I know that that's all too common of a belief from a lot of older riders, thinking that they could just big time juniors riders, and it's like, you got to remember that these kids are they're dedicated, and they're out there for a reason. So whether or not they have an 11 or a 14th on their cassette, they will find a way, so you better watch out. Alright, things just kind of slowing up. Jeff staying very well protected. Got Pete's Coffee just coming up on the right side. Beautiful BMC bikes. Naveen Mallory just behind. Jeff on his giant TCR acid yellow. Another prelim lap being called through here. Jeff sitting in. As Joshua Carling just slides back. I believe that's Josh Carling. I need to learn the difference between all these Oak Valley riders. I can't just rely on the fact that they look the same. Not rely on the fact, make excuses. Cameron Hawk, I believe he's the younger, taller rider. Got Joe Holt of Holt Construction, sponsor of A-Main Cycling, just right there behind Jeff right now, looking over his shoulder, getting into the drops. Looks like Jeff's pretty far back right now, staying pretty well protected. Like I said earlier, now we're kind of reaching the 20 laps out of 40 laps, so we're almost halfway there. Time-wise, yeah, well, time-wise and lap-wise, looks like this is pretty surgy. I think, I don't know what that, it's hobby something, Lakeport rider, just getting out of the saddle, sprinting, and then coasting immediately. Don't know what that's really about. Coming into this this turn out of the finishing straight. Got Gooby Duck right up there. Back at it. I think that's Twan coming up. Or that might be Ryan. That's Ryan. Yeah, definitely. Coming up on the right side. Cameron Hawk for Oak Valley up there with the Specialized aluminum bike on the left. But either it looks like something rolled off the front, no one's really down to chase it, or people are just looking at each other. Because once again, this is a preem lap. The whole fact that so many preems were being called one after another really made up for the fact that a break up until this point was kind of hard to establish. For a break to establish, you really needed the perfect storm of riders and force and teams just looking at each other and saying, yeah, we're happy with that. We're happy with that selection. Ooh, things getting a little dicey on the inside. Matt McCole right there for Jeff. On the outside, taking that outside line, got Blaze Hamill right behind him. Looks like that is Christopher Kane. Chris Kane, sorry. Chris, do you mind being called Christopher? Because I just go by it, I assume it for everyone else, but I shouldn't assume what your preferred nomenclature is. Yeah, so another preem lap. A little jump in speed. Maintaining about a 30 mile an hour through this tailwind section. Slowing down maybe to like 27. Last year it was a little less windy and the breakaway was kind of rolling around the 27 mile per hour mark, so this year much faster in this field, and then also much bigger field size, and I would say the wind was a little bit worse this year. I think the wind was different on that day last year. I can't necessarily remember. This same course gets used by another promoter later on in the season as well. Joe Holt just sneaking around Blake Anton right there. Getting a little dicey. But, you know, American crit racing dicey. Very happy to see Jeff sitting in at this point, keeping his nose out of the wind, because he's about to expend an extreme amount of energy coming up. Just that Mike's Bikes rider taking a bottle, swerving off to the left a little bit. So yeah, sorry for that momentary pause. Looks like there was something up the road and it just kind of got absorbed, or people are kind of looking around at each other. See that rider on the right thinking it's a good time to feed. That looks like Justin Thompson right up there for Troon Elite. Just Jeff coming up onto his wheel. listen in and see if they have anything to say to each other. Nope. See if we hear a bell once again for the preem. I did not hear anything. Bob Terra, cool socks that day, my dude. Looks like Bob's gonna launch something right, no, doesn't. So yeah, I can't really tell if something's up the road or if it's been absorbed. Which is a good thing. Means Jeff's not really, wasting energy. Ooh, getting tight along that gutter right there. John Franz is in the fold. It looks like we do have H24 slightly in front of him. A couple of turn riders also up there. So Jeff is able to just sit willy-nilly in this position. If he didn't have teammates, 3 or 4 riders up, he would have to be those 3 or 4 riders up because he would have to have that good of a vantage point to follow anything, and then he would have to follow stuff, and then he's wasting energy. But he has the teammates. He can be a little bit more protected. He doesn't necessarily have to follow everything. Works out better for him. So, it's good. It's much better for him. It's really the strength in numbers, I think, really helped out our team this race, and racing like a team with those numbers, because you can show up to a race and you can have numbers, and you can race like a bunch of chickens with their heads cut off, a bunch of narcissistic, egomaniacal chickens with their heads cut off. Ooh, getting a little bumpy right there, Pete's on a couple of riders. You could be egomaniacal, you could be selfish, and you could have all these numbers with your team, and you could still shit the bed and not win the race or not get the results that you wanted. But knowing what to do with those numbers is pretty simple when you figure it out and you're able to communicate with each other and you let egos go. You really respect your place in the team, and you really respect the riders that you're riding with, which is pretty easy for us. It's pretty easy for us because everyone's just a great person. It's a great team to be on, but B, I mean, it's like we got a whole bunch of talent across a whole bunch of different fields, and I think everyone respects each other for their individual talents and strengths and skills. And then we're amazed when someone like Andrew Hasselman comes up, and he's really showing that, he's a skinny kid that, could do this great time up a mountain on Strava, and, we're really excited about what that means. But he could also hang in a crit like this and not be afraid. That's awesome. Like when a young kid, who's really into, training, and checking Strava times and like trying to, get KOMs and stuff like that, is able to, have that sort of same passion when he hops into a crit, even though he's probably not going to be a, crit rider. That just shows how to make it in cycling when you're young. You have to be a diversified athlete. You just can't rest on your assets, to borrow a financial term. So, really impressed by how Andrew rode in this race. Andrew, your mom was at this race and you didn't introduce me to her. I'm kind of mad about that. What's up with that? So, Jeff's just coming up. Things are getting a little more strung out. You can see that the speed is was dropping back down into the 20s there for a minute. Now it's back up to 30, 31, 32 miles an hour, even into the windier section of the course. Robert Skinner, rider in all back. Watch out for him. He doesn't have a team affiliation. We all question his sock choices, but he does have good legs on him, so you kind of have to respect him for that. H24 also being up there, Oak Valley, Blaze Hamill just coming up for Tarun, making sure Jeff has protection if need be, and better yet, if something goes up the road, he could cover, and so Jeff doesn't have to. Oak Valley just coming in on the right as they swing to the gutter. Okay, so there's an attack, and Jeff's going to follow this attack. Justin's just going to kind of sit up and let Jeff go. Jeff's putting out a decent amount of power right there to follow Robert Skinner. I don't know why he's sprinting on his hoods like that and then sitting up and boffing the turn. Don't really understand. I mean, dangerous attack and the fact that Robert has legs, but just how he approached that attack and how he's flicking his elbow and looking back. So, not really getting... Yeah. Jeff telling him to get on. I like that. Good for Jeff. Yeah. That was a very weird way to attack into a corner. You're on a bike with drops, not a bullhorn bike. You should ride it like, I don't know. Maybe I'm being a little too salty. So this is a preem lap. Got this Oak Valley rider. Obviously knows what he's doing. Okay, so there is a gap up the road, and they're bridging across to that gap. So this is not for a preem. Don't know why Robert's looking around like it is a preem, like he's going to sprint for it. This is very much a bridging attempt. But I think at this point Robert is justified in thinking, I want Jeff to pull through. So Jeff is getting greedy about not pulling through. I think that is because he has a teammate up the road, which is good for Jeff. If he has a teammate up the road, he does not have to pull through on this one at all, and that's probably why Oak Valley isn't making a fuss about it. Why Robert's kind of is making a fuss about it necessarily, because there's times you could be like, oh, come on, dude, like just pull through, like we're gonna bridge, like you could help out if the break is up the road. But Jeff right here, not chasing down his teammates, even though he is benefiting from it. That's the fine line. Sometimes I'll be in a situation like this and I'll help pull through because I want to get to my teammates. Because I know that my job is going to be helping my teammates. Jeff right here is trying to get a free ride so he can sprint from Breakaway group. Some riders will just sit up if they realize that's what they're doing, if they're pulling someone. You can't get away with that all the time, and I'm actually kind of amazed by the fact that Jeff's getting away with it, and it's making me chuckle and feel warm inside. So kudos to Jeff. This was you really held to your laurels on this one, and by not pulling through, and I don't think that you could have gotten away with that any other day of the week. But I'm really glad that you did. So yeah, there they go, just bridging up. And you look at the speed they're going to bridge to this group. They're not really going much fast. 35. Yeah, so field was going about 30, 31, 30, 34 through this corner. Is it's just that 1 or 2 mile per hour difference that really, or 3 mile per hour difference that really helps. So that's the difference. So we come up onto this group. This is a pretty big break, pretty good group. We got Willie dropping back. Willie Myers, H24 Cycling. We got Chris Coble. Looks like we have Amian Cycling up in the fold along with Robert Skinner. That appears to be a 1 Robert Lander. That also appears to be a 1 Matt McCall. So Jeff being a part of this group, Matt McCall sprinting from a group like this, I would trust him any day of the week to pull off a good result. Jeff being up there definitely changes things. That looks like John Franz, and then also looks like a David Grumman pulling off. So 3 Tarun riders in this lead group. Jeff is going to have to work now. They've made the group. If Jeff just sits in and Matt and Dave do all the work, everyone else is going to stop working because they're going to just be like, well, you're just towing your teammate to the line and he's going to have fresh legs and we're not, so fuck this, I'm not working. So Jeff does have to pull through. You know, obviously he's going to play a game. He's not going to take massive pulls, but he asked Jeff, essentially at this point, being the sprinter for the team in this breakaway, he is going to have to take polls to reassure riders from other teams that he is putting in some effort, so he's not fresh as a daisy being towed to the line at their expense, and then them not having teammates, you know, having to do all these polls. You know, they're already burn all their matches. So Matt doing a pretty big pull. That was a big pull on Matt's end. Chris Coble just taking a light pull. Oh, Robert Lander, love your dance. Thank you very much. Yeah, party on. Yes, you got that rear-facing camera. We got that rear-facing camera just for Robert Lander. That's why Jeff took such a big pull right there. Damn it, Bobby. The bull's not right. So we got oh, okay. So it looks like we have gapped a couple riders in this process of that pull. That looks like John Franz just coming back on right there, I believe. Is that Chris Coble? I can't tell. We got 2 riders behind that have been gapped, kind of. We're reaching the 52-minute mark of a 70-minute crit. So things are, 31 out of 40 laps. We got this, 9 laps to go. This break looks solid. Yeah, so rider pulls off, is gapped. Jeff's gonna let Matt go, and then other riders will pull through, and then Jeff will just come back on. So Jeff took a big pull earlier. Now things are getting a little shicey. It looks like that's Robert Skinner just kind of attacking the field off the front. I don't think there's preems left to go at this point. I think they started counting down and there were no preems left to go. John Franz obviously being in this group to sprint from. Oh, looks like John's pretty mad because Jeff's just not going to pull through with this little gap, even though... Yeah, there we go. That Jeff just, if you didn't hear that, Jeff said they're skipping polls, so we're going to skip polls. Let them chase. John Franz got very heated, yelling at him, telling him to pull through. So Jeff is actually doing a pretty good work to bring back Robert right here. Looks like they kind of have a gap. This is just now the break attacking each other. Robert, I don't know. Looks like you're sitting up. Your riding style is I can't tell when you're putting out power, and I can't tell when you're sitting up. So Matt kind of has this question where he's like, do I pull through and drop my other 2 teammates and bring John Franz to the line, and then it's a 3-up sprint between me, him, and Robert, or do I just sit and wait for my teammates to come back on. And I think Jeff's just going to sit. And it looks like Willie Myers has been dropped from this group. So that's another problem. Willie Myers being dropped from this group. This is a vantage point that I saw on this race. Willie gets dropped. Gavin Murray attacks. Gavin Murray attacks very hard. H24 Cycling to try to bridge up to this group. He gets followed by everyone. And that actually ends up bringing down a significant gap on the break. So we're at 8 laps to go here. So Matt McColl's launched back on, Dave Grumman's launched back on. Looks like Bob Lander's gone. So it's 3 Squadra at this point. We got Chris Coble there, we got John Franz, and then we got Robert Skinner. So Jeff's having to do a little bit of reassurance talk, saying that we're gonna pull through. Obviously, I don't think Chris Coble likes this. I don't think John Franz likes this either. Squadra's Tarun, we're really happy about this. So, Dave's going to keep the pace up. They don't want to let this go. We're happy to sprint at this point. So Jeff wants to keep this rolling. Even though they're fighting each other. So we saw a successful bridge to a break, and then we saw a break implode on itself. It'd be really cool if I could go back, rewind it, do another narration on top of it. Too much work. Let's just do it live. So Robert's pulling through. I don't know why. If I was on another team, I don't know if I'd pull through. I'd kind of let Dave Grumman just set tempo this whole entire time. It appears like that's Chris Coble's plan. 7 laps to go. They had, I think, maybe about a 25-second gap at best. It looks like we have a couple more riders bridging up. This might be where things really fail. So Jeff's putting out a decent amount of power following Robert's wheel. Right now, Robert's just kind of going into a time trial mode. I don't know why. I think Robert was very much worried. I don't know the guy that well. I can only assume he was kind of worried about it all coming back down to a big group field sprint. So it looks like we have Oak Valley back on. And as this group catches on, Jeff's just going to let his teammate and a couple other riders roll off the front. So Jeff's going to sit. Willie's right there. He's got Dave right behind him. Willie's just going to drop back. So Willie and Bob Lander and Oak Valley got dropped. Caught back on. And now this gap grows, and Jeff's going to bridge it with a decent amount of power, not too much. Dave just let that gap go miraculously, and I believe this is how Willie and Bob Lander get dropped from this break for the final time. Don't know if Dave comes back to this or not, but that was some great... If you go back and just rewind that like a second or two to how Dave just lets Jeff get that gap. That's Dave effectively dropping Willie, Jeff's biggest sprint contender, from this breakaway. He just eliminated one of Jeff's biggest worries. Now instead of Jeff having to worry about 3 or 4 riders, Jeff only has to worry about 3 or 2, which was pretty smart, on Dave's part. Dave really sizing up the match, making those matchups correctly. And then Jeff still having the ability to bridge across. Looks like that's Dave coming back to the fold, which is pretty amazing. Dave, great source of power. Just holy moly, he played that tactical card. He just dropped 2 riders, and then he's able to bridge the gap himself. Jeff talking. saying he'll pull through, take the pole. Jeff wants to be up there at this point. 5 laps to go. Matt's up there, facing off against essentially the 2 best sprinters from this possible matchup, Chris Colbold and John Franz. Jeff's going to take a partial pole, and then he's just going to let Dave do the work. Very smart. This is the sort of team tactics I really wish I was a part of, man. This is good shit. This is good bike racing at this point. Real great bike racing. So Dave does a pole. You know, he's not going to just tow Jeff back to the line with this other potential sprinter. That's a sizable enough gap that I think Jeff can close that down without having to worry about burning too many matches. Jeff just telling Dave to stitch it up. I love when I can hear what Jeff is saying in these videos. They're really great insight. I hope I'm catching all of it and not just talking over it for all the listeners at home. Wow, that's a pretty big gap that they got right there on that Oak Valley rider. I think that's Josh Carling. I'm not quite too sure. But yeah, this is 4 laps to go, and things are 32 miles an hour. Willie's now out of the equation. I believe this is where Gavin Murray attacks, and things get brought back together. So Gavin Murray attacks, the field chases after him. Willie gets fully caught back on, and then Willie, Gavin Murray, and Blake Anton, all H24 riders, get to the front, and they chase the living daylights. They chase this group down like they owe them money. That's the only way to describe it. I hope I'm talking at the right point in the race that this is happening, because even though you can't see it, this is what's going on behind. And while that's going on, I'm sitting about 6th wheel, 4th wheel, watching this happen, getting ready to get assumed. Worst case scenario is this brake gets caught. What happens when the brake gets caught? Does Jeff still have enough legs to sprint from a field sprint? Or some other team going to get to the front and then drill it for their sprinter? So even though my team is up in the break and I'm not there with them, that doesn't mean I'm sitting at the back of the pack. That means I'm sitting at the front getting ready just in case they get caught. And then I have to start working because Dave and Matt don't have fresh legs, and we're still trying to deliver our sprinter Jeff to the line. Looks like we got some shenanigans going back on there with John Franz and Oak Valley, Josh Carling. Man, is this is coming? I didn't realize how close they got caught. Matt just really putting his head down at this point and driving it, making sure that they don't get caught. 3 laps to go. Jeff takes a pole. This is probably the last time he wants to see the front. He's going to pull off pretty quickly and let Colton, or forget your name, Skinner, pull through with Matt McCall. Matt McCall just doing a little hand signal right there, saying that he's going to follow. Jeff's going to let that go. John Franz is going to kind of surge around that. And do we see... Do we see the field at this point? Someone yelling, just keep going. I think this is the point where the breakaway might meet its demise. 2 laps to go. I don't know if this lap counter is correct. Matt McCall, or that's Dave Grumman doing a pretty big pull. John Franz is just going to roll off the front. Jeff Linder's going to follow him. Excuse me. It looks like the field's coming up. John Franz is yelling. Jeff's talking about his teammates. I mean, Jeff at this point, if... Oh, man, Franz is pissed. Franz is pissed that they're getting caught, so Franz is going to go. Franz is going to go, and Matt's going to follow. It looks like that is the field coming up right there. So Franz is off the front with Matt in hot pursuit. And here comes, looks like Blaze Hamill, quickly followed by Lux and H24. So Matt's up there. I thought at this point Franz was up there. Things are getting dicey. A lot of bumping at this point. Jeff gets assumed. Jeff wants to stay a little bit protected at this point, but Jeff doesn't want to slip back entirely. Jeff wants to be able to still be towards the front and up sprinting, hopefully finding teammates. Only has Blaze in front of him at this point. Looks like that's just Matt slipping back. So Franz is off the front currently alone, which is kind of an issue, but he does have the whole entire field chasing him. Blaze Hamill right in front. Jeff coming up onto his wheel, making sure he's in a good position still. He's got Andrew Hasselman. He's got Matt McCall. Matt McCall, just did that big effort to follow Franz. Stay on it. Jeff saying stay on it. Right there. So Jeff is, Matt's going to stay on it. Matt's going to take over right in front of Jeff. Fight, bump elbows, hopefully open up some. There we go. Me on the left. Me realizing that it's coming down and we got to catch Franz. So I'm going to get to the front and hopefully help string it out a little bit, knowing that I can't help worth a fucking goddamn in the actual lead out, and that Matt's got it. So yeah, Jeff just sitting right on Matt. Doing a really good job surfing wheels right here. Matt, you're you're a miracle. Holy hell. Go, 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 go. You hear Jeff saying it. I believe this is the last lap. Matt, we gotta go. Coming in hot into that inside. Matt's putting down the power. That's about almost 800 watts, a little bit more. Go, Matt, go, Matt. Me just slipping back. Get on Justin. I'm going to sit up right here because I see them coming past, and I kind of want to create a little bit of a strung out split. So here goes Matt. Matt coming right up onto H24. It is still pretty strung out. Looks like we have A-Main Cycling right behind. We're coming in to the headwind section pretty soon. We got Oak Valley. We're chasing down riders. We're chasing on to the wheel of the riders up in front. Looks like Matt's gonna go. Jeff just gave the signal. Matt's gonna go. Jeff Bushek.
Come on, Matt.
Oh, he's yelling at Matt. Matt's doing a full sprint into the final corner through that headwind. That was a great effort. Now he's gonna just drop Jeff off. All Jeff has to do is his sprint. Oh my God. Pure yells of ecstasy coming from Jeff, but he has a whole country mile behind him. Matt just dropped him. Matt just did a hero's effort into that headwind, and Jeff has had the ability to still yell at him to tell him to keep going, and then he just goes for it once he makes that turn. That's a long sprint, and he finished it like a champion with a country mile. Not even a chance from the riders behind. That was beautiful. Once again, you know, we came from Folsom. Matt and Jeff did a really good lead out. We fell short. Willie was able to beat us. It looks like there's a little, I think there's a little rat ass, little bit of a chapped ass right there, from the other rider that was in the breakaway. But great tactics from that breakaway. You know, getting caught by the field and then still being able to sprint and lead out your man. That's pretty amazing. Matt did another great job in this race. You know, that's something that I don't really see, and then I watch these videos and I realize how fortunate I am to have amazing teammates like Matt and Jeff who are just able to work so flawlessly. Really inspires me. Hopefully it inspires you, because that's a great team effort. You know, I hope these videos, that kind of bird's eye view really helps out a lot of people. Andrew and Jeff just talking a little bit about the confusion going on there. But man, they came into this headwind section, and that's where Matt just dropped off Jeff right into that final turn. I think earlier I discussed how dangerous that headwind into the final turn is, and it's still quite a long ways from the final turn into the actual finish. But by the time Matt just put so much speed and power out that looked like Jeff Bouchek was initially on it, but man, he just dropped Jeff right off into that corner, and then Jeff was laughing all the way home. So that was a great effort. I hope you enjoyed. Hope my commentary is getting a little bit better every single time. If you like this video, please hit the subscribe button and give us a like on NorCal Cycling Photos. And if you like my personal brand of quirkiness and commentary, I do have an Instagram at Gas Station Food Cyclist on Instagram. Hit us up. Send us a picture of food that you eat on a ride at a gas station. We take submissions. Thank you very much for watching, and have a great rest of your day.